Fall means autumnal breezes and vibrant earthy colors. It also means fall allergens, bacteria, and particles coming into your home. So swap out your old HVAC air filter with a Filtrete air filter from a retailer near you. Let's clear the air.
Welcome back to the quickest podcast ever, brought to you by Kohl's.
Today's topic, the holidays.
It's that time again.
Yep. So I went to Kohl's and got 30% off holiday decor and St. Nicholas square finds for the table.
Perfect for the fam.
And started on my gift list with toys my kids will love.
Okay, you're convincing me.
Oh, and did I mention the extra 20% off and the $10 off when you spend $50?
Kohl's, here I come.
Select styles. Offer ends October 31st. Some exclusions apply. See store or kohls.com for details.
Hey, and welcome to the HA podcast. I'm Danny Sheriff, the host of this podcast, the founder of the HA Society, and an HA recovery coach who has walked wherever you currently are. This is the place to come if you care about getting your period regularly. This podcast aims to educate, inform, and keep you motivated on your period and HA recovery track. I would love it if you could rate and review this podcast, 5 stars only, to help make this podcast easier for other women with HA to find it. And last thing, nothing from this show should be taken as medical advice. Please seek the advice of your physician. The HA Society is taking clients. Coach Ashley and I work one-on-one with HAers, as we call you, to help you figure out a plan and of course, implement it and stay accountable. Whether you've worked with a health practitioner already and you just want to stay accountable and strategic with the plan that they've laid out for you, or you want to start from scratch looking at all the aspects of your recovery needs and to create a game plan to reach those needs, then we are definitely your girls. When you sign up to work one-on-one with one of us, we're going to go over your history, your biggest obstacles, ensure that we're taking into account your specific goals, and start making a plan to reach them. So those goals could be getting your period back, could be getting pregnant, could be getting back to exercise or sport, or simply working on your mindset around your body image and long-term recovery. We also can teach you the fertility awareness method. So if you want to learn that so that you have the skills you need to go out into the world on your own without fear of getting HA again, we have got your back. So our coaching packages are either weekly or bi-weekly and only a month at a time commitment. So you're not paying tons and tons of money for 5-6 months. It's month to month, which is awesome. Makes perfect sense for period recovery, right? So to learn about other women's experiences working with us and to apply for a coaching spot, plus ask any questions that you might have before getting started, just go to thehasociety.com/coaching. Hello, welcome back to my channel, or if you're listening on the podcast, welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is kind of fun. I've been getting requests, just a few, to talk about life kind of after HA in the years to come, or even just like, what does it look like 6 months later, 1 year later, 2 years later? And I think that's a really interesting question. And I think it's also really important because the future is a big part of the fear, right? I really feel like anxiety basically just comes from fear of the unknown, and knowing what life looks like after you've gotten your period back, thanks to the changes you've had to make, is a big one. And I think that most people are wondering, well, how long am I going to be living this eat more, exercise less, gain some weight, be less perfectionistic lifestyle? And I think it's going to be different for everyone, but I'm going to kick off with my experience personally. And then I've got a bunch of questions about this exact topic that I asked for on Instagram that I'll work through. So I have had my period back now for, I want to say 2 and a bit years. And obviously I'm pregnant now. I'm like 7 months pregnant. So I haven't had a period that whole time. And obviously that's something that's different. But when I first, got it back, it was an exciting time and a challenging time because I, was still holding on to a lot of beliefs about how I needed to look and feel. in order to be happy with my body. And I'd say that with time, a lot of things happened for me. Obviously, I had to continue doing mental work. And so I continued diving into conversations and thinking a lot about what, body positivity and what body acceptance and body literacy is. And I started learning more about my cycle, and I started learning more about the role of body fat in my body, and kind of debunking this idea that like I should always be tired and I should be thin, and realizing that that's entirely made up, and that having body fat is important, and not everyone looks a certain way. So I had to spend a lot of time coming to terms and understanding the truth behind how my body's actually meant to feel and look and behave versus, what society's told me it should feel and look and behave. Because it's a very, very hard condition to break. So after I got my first 3 periods back, I did start incorporating exercise. And this is my first 3 periods after a relapse. So actually, I had gotten a period back, gotten a couple of them, and then went back to exercise and lost it again for a while, and had to basically what felt like start again. So the second time, after going through that experience, I had just had more information, and I kind of understood, okay, that's what happens if I try to, go back too quickly. So the second time I got my period back, I got 3 periods, and I was ready to consider exercise again. I started doing some very small workouts, super short, walking a little bit again, and eventually, felt that things were going well. I had restored quite a bit of weight, and I'd say I got my weight back up to my original starting weight before ever touching a diet, right? So I never gained more than that, and I know that's scary for a lot of people because they had lost tons and tons of weight and feel like they came from a place of being overweight. So just remember, I didn't come from a place of being overweight, and also that's subjective, because I do believe there are girls out there who would consider my starting weight as overweight. I have a lot of conversations with people who are like, I just was heavily overweight and I don't want to be back there again. And then we kind of dive into the numbers, and it's like, no, you weren't overweight. So it's all kind of subjective, and that's a really tricky situation. So if you're just listening to this thinking about like restoring your previous weight and the fears you have around it, I think it's really important to come to do some looking into. It's like, were you really overweight, or are you just saying that as a reason or a really good excuse to not have to gain weight? I eventually restored weight, was having solid cycles, had long enough luteal phases, all that good stuff, was definitely ovulating, and decided to try weightlifting again. I wanted to go back to Olympic weightlifting. I really enjoyed that as a sport. I'd had all this time off. I kind of felt rejuvenated for the thing. And I was excited to go back at a capacity that wasn't stupid. I used to be training for friggin' 6-7 days a week and under fueling the whole time. What would happen if I went back after this time and this restored weight gain, this restored health, and tried weightlifting again in this new body? And it was really cool. I trained half the amount of time every second day. So I took a full rest day, so 4 days a week, at least 1 full rest day, and then sometimes 2. And I would be fully fed before I went, and I would have a huge dinner when I got home. And it was a completely different experience. There was nothing restrictive around my entire experience. And my body composition did change, right? And by composition, I just mean I started to experience muscle growth. I started to experience changes in how I felt strength-wise and how clothing fit. But I wasn't actively trying to lose weight. I don't think that I really did. But that wasn't the goal, and that wasn't the time, right? Diving straight back into exercise, I couldn't be like, okay, let's get strong and lean and blah, 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 blah. No, I went back into it with, okay, let's go back and get strong and see what happens to your lifts, and even just see what happens to your body when you just give it what it needs. So I did that, and it was really cool. It was fun to be able to like watch my cycle and see when training was affecting my cycle and be able to make a change so that I didn't skip that period. Maybe I had a couple that, in a really tough training cycle, because remember, you shouldn't be working out super hard every single day, every week of every month of every year. So when we would have days that was, or weeks that was over 80%, I could see if it was affecting my cycle and I could make a change. I could take an extra rest day. I could eat more food. So that is a really big piece of what was different for me almost like a year later. 3 months in, I introduced some exercise. 6-7 months in, I introduced training again, like proper training. And I got to kind of watch for about a year how that was affecting my cycle and what was going on. And I thought it was cool. I thought it was really cool. I felt completely new. I felt like I was having such a healthy relationship with my sport. And this whole experience has opened my perspective of like, I realize now I used to look at my training, my exercise as something that it was important that I looked a certain way for it. It was important that I was in the smallest possible weight category that my sport allowed for my body and height. And all that stuff's rubbish. And coming in to it and being prepared to do a competition, but at whatever weight I'm at now, was so relaxing, was so stress-free. It made sport really, really fun. And just having this perspective, this experience allowed me to see like, oh, okay, that girl over there is kind of struggling with this. So she's going through this kind of thing. She just lifted a ton and she's having 2 rice cakes as her like post training snack. Your whole perspective is shifted. So I was so much more open and excited about training, and I had more knowledge. You can't undo what you've learned now. So with that, if exercise or sport's something you're excited to go back to, that is something that is very positive, that you have had this experience, that you know what's happening. You can see the signs, you can see the language around you that's happening that isn't helpful, right? Because when you go back to the gym, for example, the language there is different. The language there can be triggering. And these are things you didn't even realize until now that you've done all this work into learning about your cycle and about diet culture and about how it's affecting your health. So knowledge is power. So you can trust in that when it's time. I do recommend that you check out my intuitive exercise video and all of just the episodes where we talk about exercise and reintroducing it. If you want to work with someone, you probably should. It can just be helpful to have that unbiased third party help you with your training and making changes. Come into the HA Society if you want. We can talk about it there. You can show your charts and help learn charting. Cycle charting after you've recovered is just the bomb. It's just really, really helpful for not slipping back into HA. Also, the pandemic hit, and so I actually stopped weightlifting at that point. I'd just come back from a vacation in Australia, and the pandemic was happening. Like was so lucky to even get on a flight home. And when I got back, I don't know what it was, but I didn't want to really go back to the gym. I mean, it was closed, right? And so it was closed for a while. I didn't want to do remote training with the team. So I sort of just went back to kind of doing whatever I felt like doing. Something about the spark and the drive for athletic performance kind of dissipated at that point, which is okay. It kind of showed that I had become more fluid with my decisions and what I feel like doing, because I weightlifted hard, like 8 years. I never wavered. I never didn't train. And suddenly I was in tune enough with like, well, during this time, I don't think I feel like it. So I have a little garage gym, and if I wanted to do a workout, I could. If I just wanted to do a walk, I could. Things really changed. And then in November, we got pregnant. So things really changed then. And that's obviously a huge piece of progress. That's something that I wanted to achieve within the next few years, and I got to achieve it. So looking back at my experience physically, it's been really positive. I haven't been hung up about my body. I haven't been hung up about exercise. I've been more fluid with what I felt like doing. And I've also been able to spend time focused on this podcast and this whole community, and I got to build something real. And I think that having purpose has really helped me to not feel so attached to how my body looks and the way that I'm performing and the work that I'm producing. And I've just felt like I have purpose and community finding you guys. So that's how my life really changed, right? When I could get this mental energy back and this physical time back, because I'm not spending so much time thinking about what I'm going to eat and how I'm going to train, I had time to do creative work and make something cool and build something with purpose that made me feel like I was contributing something meaningful and have a lot of fun. Because the truth is, like, creating online things, building things is something that I love. I'm a project manager at heart and I love to build things. So that was really big for me. So I have some questions from the gram. I asked people what questions they had about the future of HA. Like, what does it look like in the future? And these are some of the questions I got. So I'm going to kind of touch on them from my perspective. But remember, everyone has a different answer, and I can really only give you my personal opinion on something. This is the future we're talking about. So I'm going to give you my take on it. Does weight, puffiness, bloating begin to distribute out or dissipate over time? So my experience has been, yes. I actually, if I can, I might find some photos just to show you a little bit of the difference between then and now. I don't promise I have good photos to show that represent this, but I have noticed that, like, I sat in a bigger body for a while and it was fine and I was prepared for it to be that way. And, with time, that absolutely dissipated a bit. Do new coping mechanisms develop? I'm sure that the same struggles still appear, so is how you cope with them differently. Yeah, I think honestly you just don't have to cope with them as much. With time, they affect you less. You've really put the reps in. You've come up against that girl who says triggering things to you a bunch. You have come up against seeing a celebrity be totally glorified for her thin body. You put in the reps and you're just less affected by it. So you need to implement coping mechanisms less. That's honestly the main thing.
We are hosting an event that you are invited to. My HA coach Ashley and I are inviting you to a free 5-day workshop called Mental Hunger Mindset Mastery. What a name, I know, but it really sums up what the workshop does and is really well. A very common concern around HA recovery is, what if I can't hear my hunger cues? And there's a widespread fear of accidentally over or under eating for recovery because we don't understand our mental hunger or lack thereof hunger. And it's like mental hunger, what's that versus actual hunger? And I think this whole confusion around real hunger and the hunger that's just in my head and should I be eating this much and all of that jazz, it just really needs to be consolidated. We need to get on the same page with this. We need to feel better about it and get a plan of action. So we're going to turn it all on its head in this workshop. Over the 5 days, we're going to work with you to understand what mental hunger is and why we have it. We're going to teach you to partner with it both during and after recovery, just for life. And we're going to give you the tools and strategies that you need to listen to your hunger during the different stages and phases of both recovery and your whole life. The workshop will go over 5 days starting November 12th, and there'll be 3 live Zoom calls. Don't worry, there is a recording of every call if you miss one, and there'll be assignments for you to tackle on the days in between the live calls. So register for this free workshop now by heading to thehasociety.com/workshop or find the link in the show notes. That's thehasociety.com/workshop. Can't wait to see you in the Mental Hunger Mindset Mastery workshop.
Body image, accepting body weight, loving more, or just neutral. Partner acceptance. Okay, so basically, how do you accept yourself in your body? Do you love yourself more? Do you just feel neutral? How does your partner accept you That's a really good question. I honestly think, again, you become less affected by it. Body neutrality is the word. I became way more neutral about how it looked. There's a roll, it's fine. My arms feel a bit big today. Whatever, next week, I won't feel that way. And especially when you start having regular cycles, you also notice that your body is cyclical too. You have weeks where you have lower, you feel, but you have lower self-esteem. And then you have weeks where you feel like hot shit. So you get used to those patterns. And when those patterns are happening, you're like, oh, this is just that week where I feel like crap. So I'm not going to spiral on it. But early on, you don't realize that it's going to end. So you really let the anxiety and the stress about it guide you. But now you're navigating it. So again, time heals these things. And partner acceptance, yeah. Because to go with this question, did the libido return? Yes, it did. And it returns slowly. It goes from, no way, I don't want to do that, to, I suppose I could tolerate this, to, I think this is something that I want to do, to, yeah, let's do it. So over time, it comes back, and that allows your partner to accept you more. I guess it didn't sound that good. Like they're way more pumped about it because of what they're getting out of it. Let's be real. And, you know, their impression is like, all you had to do is gain some weight. Great. That, like, to them, that's not an issue a lot of the time. And if you're with someone where it is an issue, I'm sorry, but your health comes first. So I'm not going to sit here and try and tell you that, like, your partner having a hard time accepting you at a slightly heavier body weight is an acceptable reason to change your body. Like, love is, that's not love. So yeah, your partner accepts it because you're happier, you're more pleasant to be out with, you're more spontaneous, you're more fun, you're more interested in them, you like them more, you're less irritated with them. It's a total win for them. Getting your period back after pregnancy. Previously had HA, recovered, got pregnant. Yeah. So I'm still pregnant, and so I have not actually gotten a period back postpartum, so I can't really speak to it, but I will definitely be keeping you guys updated. And our HA Society coach Ashley just got her first period back postpartum, so maybe I should chat with her about it. Is getting back into exercise hard? Only if you fully intend to continue pushing yourself to a limit that your body doesn't actually want to do. Then at that point, yeah, it's hard. You don't want to do it. But if you're coming from a place of, I'm going to get back into exercise because I feel like it and I'm going to move my body in a way that feels good, then yeah, I think like a big piece of a lot of the answers to this is you will not care about the thing that you're so worried about right now as much. And that is going to make it way easier to quote unquote cope with. But I just explained my whole exercise story just now, so I hope that that was helpful. How to manage irregular cycles due to bouts of stressful periods, like starting university. Yeah. So that's a big reason why I'm a fan of cycle tracking. Charting your cycles allows you to see what's happening. It allows you to see that, hey, I'm going through a stressful time and I'm seeing that my ovulation is pushed back. I'm seeing that my temperatures are down. I'm seeing that my luteal phase is really short. And then when you observe those things, you can make changes. So if you can't avoid a stressful time at uni, that's not really in your control, but how much else you put on your plate outside of uni is in your control. How much food you eat is in your control. How much exercise you also do at the same time as going through exams is in your control. So when you're charting your cycles and you're seeing how it's affecting you, you're able to make those changes. But you don't have to chart your cycles and you could just make those changes. You could just become fully aware of your capacity and just decide, like, you're now going to start saying no to things. And now it's the first few weeks of uni, so I'm going to take it easy on my extracurriculars right now. And because you've been through this experience and you've seen firsthand what can happen to your body when you don't listen to it or when you push it past what it really wants to do, that experience helps you make better choices later. And yeah, you're going to take this experience with you for the rest of your life. You're always going to remember what it was like to lose your period due to pushing yourself too hard, and you're gonna be better at making decisions. If you're struggling still to make the decisions that you need to make to get on track, then you just have more mental work to do. You should be working with a therapist, an HA coach, have some kind of community just to keep you on track with it. Just because you get your period back doesn't mean you don't still need to be working on these things. And until all of this stuff is second nature, until self-care is second nature, taking rest days is second nature, eating more when you have overexerted yourself on a certain day, until all that's second nature, you should just keep working on this stuff mentally. But it does really get easier. Curious about how to safely lose some weight after recovery and not lose period again. Like I just said, chart your cycle so you can see how your period's behaving, so you can take action before it disappears again. But also just be really smart about how you go to lose the weight. From this experience, you have now seen what can happen when you take the unsafe route. So I think this is a time to be brutally honest with yourself, another opportunity to work with a therapist or an HA coach, or at least like a personal trainer or a nutrition coach who really understands what's happening in your head mentally and isn't trying to just push you to lose weight, but is also trying to push you to grow and take a healthy approach to this. I don't remember how I started that conversation or that sentence, so I don't know how to end it, but get help. Ensure you're doing it safely. If you have a hunch that you're taking a slightly unhealthier route towards something, like, I think I'm choosing to put less on my plate, or I think I'm choosing to spend an extra half an hour or whatever at the gym, try to be objective and know when you're negotiating with yourself to do things to lose extra weight. And until you can do that, it's best that you work with someone, and it's probably best that you don't try to lose weight until you're in a place where you can trust that you're not going to slip into old habits just yet. But take it slow. Just take it slow. Start with just exercise, and then later you can try some diet stuff, and always one thing at a time. And I have a few episodes or YouTube videos both on reintroducing exercise after HA. So make sure you check those out so that you do not make the mistakes that many of us do make. The ability to balance exercise and life without worries about overstressing your body. Yeah, I think that with time you will see and gain with every cycle you gain a bit more experience and a bit more experience, and now you are gaining more trust in your body and more understanding about how it behaves, and so then you become less and less anxious. Like I said at the beginning, I think that anxiousness comes from the unknown, not knowing what the future holds. The more periods you have, the longer you live in your fed body, the more you begin to trust the process and the less that you worry about how to balance everything. And your life's always changing. Your body's always changing. It's cyclical. So you're going to have times when you screw it up, or just you didn't screw it up. Your body was just reacting to a stressful situation the way that it's biologically designed to, right? So having some forgiveness and understanding about the fact this is how our body's meant to work. It shuts your reproductive system down when things aren't safe. It makes changes. So, don't get upset about it. Just act when you see something. So much of this is just act when you see something. How is your diet now and exercise level? My diet now is eat whatever's in the house. It's actually amazing. I reflect on this all the time, that I always thought those people who didn't have time to eat or just ate whatever were weird, because I used to be so hungry and so food obsessed that my lunch had to be elaborate and as amazing as possible, and I would spend $1 million quadrillion at the grocery store basically to try and eat as little as possible, which is true. Right, all the low calorie stuff. What can I eat that actually isn't food? And it ends up getting really expensive. So now is there leftovers? Cool. Oh, there's a weird mishmash of random ingredients to eat. Okay, I'll just eat those, whatever. I just want to get back to my life. And I do still enjoy a good meal, but it's not consuming my mind all the time. So that's been a really fun a really fun one. And I also just explained my exercise recently. And then when I have had the baby, I actually have been more motivated. I'm like, I miss working out now. I've spent a whole bunch of time being pregnant, really scaling my workouts, really just taking it easy. And I'm excited to like get back to the gym and get under a barbell and stuff. So when after a baby and after I've recovered and when I'm feeling better, she's in daycare or something, I might start training again. Will life after HA be constantly shadowed by the fear of going back there? No. You'll get smarter. You'll know your body better. You'll always be aware because you now have this body awareness and this body literacy about when your period is due and aware of like, oh, I wonder if I ovulated and stuff. And that part will be present, but you will not be fearful forever. When does the bloating finally subside? How long after it's okay to get or to think about getting a little leaner? So I kind of answered this one already, but the bloating piece, different amount of time for everyone. Some people don't really experience it. Some people it takes them a few weeks or a few months. That is persistence. That is patience for sure. And then how long after is it okay to think about getting a little leaner? When you have fully recovered, when you are having full-length healthy cycles, when you're mentally in a place where being as lean as possible isn't the goal anymore. You just need to be in a healthy mindset. Again, I recommend working with someone just to keep your goals and your mind in check. If you know that you're someone who likes to take things a little bit too far, if left to your own devices, you should probably work with someone. Can weight training ever be a regular feature of my week? Yes, it can be, and it even should be. Weight training is extremely good for you. And just make sure you're eating enough food and you're not overdoing it. When does weight stabilize? Is my weight at recovery my weight forever? I answered this earlier too. It stabilizes when it stabilizes. It could take a while. It could take a year. It could take a year and a half. It took me about a year. But specifically, like I got up to weight, but my composition and the bloating and everything, that didn't subside for quite a while. Everyone's different. And also your weight might be your weight forever, but your body composition isn't necessarily, okay? You might only ever fluctuate 2 or 3 kilos or something. It doesn't mean you can't gain muscle mass. It doesn't mean you can't, lose some weight. If you're going to lose more weight, like 10 or more pounds, that's your prerogative. There's no one here on the internet is allowed to judge you for what you want to do with your body. Okay. So if it's something you want to do, you can. But like I've now said, I think 8 times, work with a professional to make sure you don't take it too far and be constantly doing the work and checking in on your goals and be aware of your cycle and how it functions and what's a healthy cycle to make sure that once you embark on this path, you're not doing it from an obsessive place, a restrictive place, or a dangerous place. So that's it. Thank you guys so very much for tuning in today. I hope this was helpful little insight into the future past HA. If you would like more people's accounts, right? This was just my account. If you'd like to speak to other people or hear from other people who are further down the track with recovery, either comment on YouTube, send me a message on Instagram, leave a comment or a review, 5 stars, 5 points for Gryffindor, and I will oblige. You all just have to tell me what you want to hear about. So I always appreciate it when people send me that kind of thing. Even let me know who you want to hear from, if anyone in particular, and I will speak to you guys next week. Please subscribe to this channel, subscribe to this podcast, all the subscription related things, pick your pipe. Thank you so much. See you later.
Thank you so much for listening today, guys. Please subscribe to the podcast, and if you could head to iTunes specifically and leave a rating or review, that would help so much because it makes it easier for other people with HA who are Googling around to find the podcast really easily. So if you do that, you're doing a service to all of the women.
Some read self-help books. Others use meditation. At New Balance, it's believed that peace can be found with a run. You're never truly prepared for adversity, but certain things serve as a guide for moving forward. Whether sprinting or running marathons, the physical and mental requirements become ingrained. Visualizing an outcome, synchronizing breath and body, pushing past pain and fatigue. Those hard-learned lessons serve as a blueprint for overcoming obstacles and achieving balance in life. Go beyond the run at newbalance.com.
Some coffee's fast, but not fresh. Some coffee's fresh, but only after a long wait. Speedway coffee is made fresh at the push of a button, hot or iced, so you can have fresh coffee your way, right away. Get 2 times the points when you buy any size hot or iced coffee drink with Speedy Rewards.